Hello and welcome to another episode of Graves in Australia Diecast Salvage. Today we're not going to be stripping a vehicle, so our strippers are going to stay in their robes. They're going to watch what we're going to do. Today we're going to be using a product called Plastimake. It was an ad that I saw on a Facebook feed, on my feed, and I thought it'd be quite interesting to see what we can do with it. Now I bought the large jar. I've had a little play with it already, and I like the results though, what we got out of it. It is a product that can be reusable. So we're going to do some little experiments today to show you what I think this can be used for. So stick around and we'll catch you in a moment. Okay, how this product works is that you pour in some boiling water. So girls are missing out on they're going to have their coffee in the background like me. This time I've got to do all the work and the girls get to sit back and relax. And from here we throw in some of the pearls from the jar. That should be plenty. And what you're looking for is for these pearls to go clear. Just put the lid back on the jar. Otherwise we'll have a little accident, and we don't want the accidents. We've had enough of those already. So as you can see, it's gone clear. And then using something to stir, you'll see that when you stir it around, you want it to clump up together. Then we pull it out. And this is where we just squish them all together. You can make anything that you like with it. We'll just move that hot water to the side. And we're just going to tear a bit off, put that back in the water. We're going to press that into that part of a mould. This mould was for the Matchbox Ford pickup, the red one, to make the grill. Hoping that may not show up clearly, maybe that way. The grill on the front of the kennel truck or the Ford pickup, which is often quite missing. So that's all. That's ready to come out of the mould. It's still translucent at the moment, and from there you just put it into some cold water, and that brings what you're wanting to do is to bring it back to this whitish colour. And from here, this will not, I shouldn't say it will not break, it's very difficult to bend. You can see here, up here it's quite thin. Now I do have when I was playing with it previously, I do have a small piece here that I've used, and as you can see there, it's held on by a very thin thread. Just made a bit of a liar out of me. It did break on that little thread, but even here, it's very thin. And I had to use a fair bit of force to get that out. But it can be reused. All you got to do is just drop it back into the hot water. So now we can take the one that we just the mould that we just made here. As you can see, we have a fair amount of flashing on there, but I'll come back to that in a moment. So we'll just put that one aside. Now we'll grab we'll grab this other piece here, because we need to let that piece go. And we'll move over onto this piece here, where I want to fill this part up here instead of having to get some styrene. Ouch. To fill, and we want a bit of weight into it. So all we're doing is putting it together. We can make it into a box form. Sorry, being off camera. And just pressing it into place. And again, I'll come back to this part here in a moment, but that has now filled that section. If you're careful enough, as it is, it'll stay in place, or once it's cured, you can pull it out and then super glue it back in. That's that, and now we're going to use it as another filler. Alright, we need to just, because the water has cooled down a fair bit, it needs to be hot water. I mean boiling water. So we'll top it up again from the kettle. Throw that back in. Let it be in there for a couple of seconds. Give it a bit of a stir, because we want it to go to a clear colour. You can't play with it. And there we go, we're back into, whoops, not quite. Of course, we've got a fixed section to it. So we need to leave it in there for a little bit longer. Now, while you can see that is starting to dry, because it's going back to the whitish colour here. Now we should be able to, as we see, this has gone back to a clear colour. This is the part that we used before. And it's not enough for what I want to use. So we'll go back again to what I used before. So we'll put that back into the hot water. You can stick that one back in, and you'll see these slowly turn a clear colour. In the meantime, while that's heating up to go into this mould that I've got over the back here, we can come back to this. As you can see, we've have a fair amount of flashing around the plastic. Well, it is plastic. It is quite solid now, flexible. Don't know where you can hear that there. But the easiest way to bring that down is I need to come back down to this line here where you can see the blade on the X-Acto knife. That's where I need to come down to. And all you do is trim. I'm not going to do this in front of the camera, because I know what's going to happen. We're going to see a lot of red claret, and I don't know what people's temperaments are regarding seeing the red claret, so I'll do a trim off camera while we're waiting for this other piece to soften up. Catch you in a moment. Just dropped what I had in my hand. Okay, we've done some trimming back to opaque. It's nice and thin, very hard to bend. If you're using the resin, the amount of force that I'm putting onto that will probably snap it. So that's quite thin up the top here. If I was going to use it on the Matchbox truck, I'd still be doing some more trimming just to get that flat to glue the front on. Let's see how we're doing with our piece in here. Okay, we need some fresh hot water. So we'll boil the kettle, we'll come back and we can do this other part of the mould. But before we go, we can see that that part here is cured. And we can do, again, using the X-Acto knife, we can do a bit of trimming. And that's just I might be able to do this one on camera. So all we're looking at is just wiggling it and pressing it down. This does go quite hard. So this is something that you might need to take your time with. But as you can see, it's only been 5 minutes since I last did the. As you can see, that's taken a fair amount of effort to get that in there. Like I said, this will pull out, and when you want to attach it, just a bit of super glue. So I'll trim this up and I'll put it back in. So there's our piece that we just had in there trimmed off. So this piece here, you don't throw it away. We shall be putting it back into the fresh hot water that we need to reboil. Now I have done this before, and if you watched my previous video, you would have seen me use it on the back of that trailer. This part here is the same Plastimake. Made this part down here for the axle to sit on. Made this part in here to get that drawbar to come down low, which is this part here. So trailer turned out nice, I think. Anyway, I'm digressing. The idea is to use this Plastimake. So I'm going to get some more hot water, and we'll see. The idea is to make now a moulding so that we can use a vacuum former. So we'll put some more hot water in. The company that sells this product, you can also get pigment so that you can colorise your whatever you're making. If you need a colour, as opposed to painting like I did with this resin, you can mix your pigments. So if you've got something already painted, maybe you could match it without having to paint the thing. So we're waiting for this to turn clear. Because it's so thick, it'll take a while. The edges are coming clear. There's a piece that we had earlier that we flattened out. And we'll just give that a moment or two just to go clear. I'll bring you back because it might take a minute or two, because what I'm attempting to do is this is plaster, that's the inner part of a windscreen. So, and I need to make a windscreen for another vehicle, and I want to try the method I want to use. I want to see if this will hold up to the heat treatment that I need to use. So I'll bring you back in a moment. Okay, so we have this now working. So let's see if we can do what it'll do what I want to do. I already know that. But put that in there. Just give that a bit more heat because I'm wanting to get the two pieces together. Sorry, we're off camera. Because I've got a breeze in the garage here. It's cooling the piece off rather quickly. There we go. Oh, fun and games when you're doing things on camera. Everything is falling apart because this is old Lego that I'm using. It's been used a number of times for other things, so it doesn't seal properly. So we'll get some more. I've got plenty of pre-used stuff, so we'll that water's cooled off a fair bit, so we'll get rid of that and we'll get some more boiling water. Like I said, this stuff can be reused. It's not going a clear colour as what it should because I had grubby fingers at the time. But you can see it's gone into a plastic colour, and we can manipulate it. I'll try and keep it off on camera. So what I'm trying to do is we're going to again just press it into place to fill all that area up. And what I'm going to do now is turn this thing upside down, press it down. The idea is to get a flat surface on this side. So we'll let that go off, even though like I said, excuse me, that the Lego has come out. Because it's old Lego that I've used for other things, and so anyway, we'll let that go off and we'll pull it out. What I also did, just in case, is I used a bit of release agent, which is usually the Vaseline, to go around the edge of the plastic, so it does, just in case it might have stuck to the Lego. To avoid that, we'll just put a release agent in to give it a bit of less pressure, so we can release it. We should be able to, as you can see, it's starting to go white now. We'll do this in real time. We'll get this Lego out. Away. There. That's our piece. So when we pull it out, here we have our mould for the glass. So what I can do in a moment is I'll trim this down a little bit, so that it can be made ready for a vacuum former, which will be an upcoming video sometime in 2022. So I'll be back in a moment with this trimmed down. Gee, I need to remember to press the record button. So I've done a bit of trimming, as you can see on this part here. This is to use for when I'm going to use my vacuum former again. That will be a video that will come up probably next year in 2022. I've got to do some experimenting with this, and if it does come off the way I think it will, excuse me, that will be rather great. So that's one way you could use this Plastimake. Another way is to use it as a bulk filler, to put it up there. You can make another thing here, you know, like I did with the other trailer for the axle to sit on. Or you can make spare parts, like I did this grill for the Matchbox Ford red pickup or the kennel truck. So I used the same piece. This is the one that I made a little bit earlier today that you saw on screen. As I was trimming, I just cut down a little bit too far on that piece there, so that's going to go into the recycle. The same with this one, so it doesn't go to waste. Put it in the recycle, or it'll go back into the jar, because, like I said, it can be reused. So I hope you enjoyed this little review on Plastimake. There are other things you can do with it. It's up to your imagination. So, have a great day. We'll catch you on the next episode of Gravesend Australia Die-Cast Salvage. While that previous method would probably work for that to make the vacuum former part, I think this way might be a little bit better. Again, what we're doing is we're making this as thin as possible. We go into the vehicle that we want to make the piece for, and we just push out against the sides. We'll see it on this part here. Just make sure that the window part there is flat, so that we can make the curvature on the back window. We get a reasonable, apologies for taking it off camera, just need to get the balance of it right, so that we get to something like that. Just push it back down, and we're just making it into the reasonable condition. So what we're going to do is just let that cool off, and we'll come back. Okay, now that has cooled down, as you can see, it's the opaque or whitish colour. So let's see if we can get it out. So, of course, this is rather tough now. Just takes a little bit of persuasion, as they say. I can't push it out. Yeah, it's all that way. So we're just come in, just bring the sides in a bit. There we go. Now it's being released, and there we have a piece that we can make a piece for our vacuum former. So we just need to trim this down a little bit, and we'll be back in a moment. Alright, we've done some trimming, so this now sits fairly flat. Now the idea is if you're going to do vacuum forming and you want to make it last, you need to make the bottom part a little bit longer than the screen itself. The best way to see how much you need, roughly, is to have a look at Paul Restorer's channel when he makes the windscreens. That's what I'm basing my stuff on. Here are the offcuts. They're not going to be thrown out. They're going to be put back into the jar to be reused. So we're going to put this back into our car. As you can see, it fits rather nicely. It still needs some minor adjustments. As you see here, we're just not quite out to the edge, but we now have an interior, or the inside glass, pretty much where we need to be. So we're just boiling the kettle again, but this time we're going to put the casting, including the Plastimake, into the hot water, and then we'll mould it out a little bit better. So we'll catch you in a moment. Alright, so we have the casting back into the water. We tip it out. She's hot. So now we can mould the plastic out a little bit more, just to make sure that we are into those corners better. And see, the thing is, each time you're touching this, it is cooling it down. And what we're trying to do is to, a little bit hard, I know I'm off camera, is to get the thing into a nice shape, and try and keep that plastic thin. So that's looking a little bit better. We're now filled out our edges here, just a little bit more. We're trying to keep that shape at the back. Sorry for it. There we go. Stop the shakes. Get that shape there. Now, as you can see, it is going back to that opaque or that whitish colour. So that's cooling it down. So we'll throw it in some cold water and we'll see how we go. So we've made the casting using this Polymake plastic. Some people call it Polymorpth plastic, in 3 different ways. We've made a thing to make to use as a plastic former. Just having a little difficulty getting it out of the vehicle again because we have hardened up so much. So this is the one that we've just made, and in here is an original glass for the vehicle. So if I hold it together, let's see if I can do that in front of the camera. I've made it a little bit longer, and the idea is when you use the vacuum former, again, that piece down there is that extension that you can cut it back. It's only a shame that you can't get this in clear. This is the clearest you can get. You can colour it. You can either paint it if you wish, or you can get the pellets to make it into a different colour. But I'm just saying that's a close match. If I turn it, that's about the right way. That maybe we can get away with using that to make a form. It will go into, get it the right way, it will go into our form here. As you can see, we have a little bit left over. That's the whole idea, is so that you get that extra piece. Where I shouldn't say made a mistake, it's what I knew at the time when I made the silicone mould, was to go level with the top as opposed to giving it just that little bit extra. Anyway, that's moved that one out the side. So we've made a piece here that we can use a vacuum former. We've made a piece as a filler. These are only rough because it's only a guide what I'm showing you here as to give you an idea as to how you can use it. Or you could use it to actually make your spare part, as this is a grill for the matchbox pickup, or kennel truck if you like, the green kennel truck. This one still needs to be cut down. I won't do that on camera because otherwise there'll be blood everywhere. Anyway, they're the three ways that I'm thinking that we can use that. There are other ways that you can use it. I've actually thought of how I could use it on a build that I'll be doing in January, maybe February of 2022. And that will be a special event. Alright, so have a look up of a Polymake, P-O-L, I'll show you the jar again. Plastimake, not Polymake, Plastimake. Alright, its other name is Polymorpth, P-O-L-Y-M-O-R-P-T-H. If you can't find the Plastimake, Polymorpth is the other thing that you can look for, and I'll put a description in the title. Thanks again for watching the video. I hope you got a bit of some idea of this. Maybe you could use it yourself. I know I'll be using it a lot more. Catch you later. Just to show you that it can be reused again. That grill that we made before, we're going to make it again. But now that we're not using as much material as last time, we're it shouldn't be as thick. So here we are. It's all nice and clear. I'm just going to press it a little bit so it's nice and thin. We press it into the mould that we've made some time ago that we're using for resin casting. So we just press the top on, and that will cool it down fairly quickly, as it has. So we can pretty much pull it out like we have, so we don't have to do as much. I'll try back this way, get that hot water out the way. We don't have to do as much trimming this time round because we've made it fairly thin. We just need to cut these edges off, but we'll wait for that to dry or to cool down. So just bear with me. We're still live. I'm not going to turn the camera off. So all I've done is put it in some cold water, and it goes back to that milky sort of colour. And I don't know whether I can do this on camera or do it around. I might do it around the camera. But we just use our X-Acto knife to cut away at the edge. No, I'll do it off camera so you don't have to worry about the blood going everywhere, because you won't see it. I will though. And we're still here. Just taking that last piece off. We're just going to do a bit of a trim again. Just with a sharp knife, X-Acto knife. Don't cut yourself with it. I'll try not to cut myself. This side here just needs that little bit of a trim. This is the thing when you're doing something live. Well, I shouldn't say live. I don't want to particularly edit, for the simple reason that when you edit things out and people watch, they expect things to be in that time frame. Some people don't understand that when there's been an edit, for whatever reason, that some things take a little bit longer than others. So I've got another piece to trim off here, off the edge here. I know we're off camera and it's boring what you're looking at. I understand that. But I just don't want you to worry about the sight of blood coming out, just in case I misjudge. So we're just about there. And here we are back with that front piece, the grill. So you can make it fairly thin, and like I say, this last bit is in the time frame that from remelting it, posting it, and ending this section. That's real time. Just needs a little bit more cleaning up, but that you can, if you're doing it yourself, you can take your time with it. But again, I'm finding it an amazing product. This is called Plastimake maker, or you can look it up as Polymorpth. All right. Again, hope you enjoyed this little video tip, and hopefully you can use it yourself. Bye for now.